Hi everybody, welcome to Ziff's Cabin. I felt called today to read for you guys, so before I go into what I have been thinking about today that I feel called to read about, I first want to put in a disclaimer that I am not any kind of health law or any other kind of important professional, such as a mental health professional, doctor, lawyer, whatnot. So if anything comes up related to those topics, I ask you to please use your discretion and to make sure that you are speaking to experts within that field before taking any advice from me or any advice from any spirits or gods or whoever may come up with regards to this channeling. If this does not resonate with you, then it's probably not for you. If it does, then you may well just find that it is for you. All of my readings are for entertainment purposes only, so within reason, even if things do resonate with you, please make sure that you're, again, using your discretion and understanding that a reading for the collective doesn't necessarily mean a reading for everybody. It's not always going to be accurate to any one person. Some things may resonate, some things may not. Just take things as they resonate, and if they don't, leave them in peace. And now we should get on to the reading. And first and foremost, because I can't use incense here at the moment, I can't use incense or candles because I am not about to set the entire building's fire alarm off and have everybody evacuate. So the only thing I can use right now is this here bell to cleanse the energy for both myself and you guys before I start this reading. So I'm going to do that now. If you have any kinds of sensory issues with regards to hearing, you may want to turn down your volume now. So here we go. Okay. So what I got was that, so the goddess Pandora is coming up really strongly at the moment, and I actually ironically saw from another reader, like, they had mentioned Pandora's box, and I decided today to take a look at the story itself and Pandora's origins and whatnot. And whilst I was researching, all of a sudden I felt like I was going to cry, and a load of stuff came up, and I was kind of like, okay, well, wait a minute here, like, are we interpreting something wrong? Because it did feel as though there is like a great deep sadness, and there's a level of vindication needed with regards to Pandora herself, which is what I was thinking was going on. But she seems to want me to do more than just write on the blog. So us as a system, we decided that it would be best if we heard her out and actually helped, because as we found out through our research, that there is a possibility that the passage from Works and Days written by Hesiod was actually either a huge misinterpretation or a particularly misogynistic interpretation by Hesiod. And so it feels only right to kind of make it clear who she actually is as a person and who she has been portrayed to be in comparison. Because as we know, of course, Pandora was known to be the first woman per se, and she was known for opening the jar and for releasing all the evils out into the world. From what I channeled in here, and from what research I have done, it seems to have been suggested that Pandora was a goddess before she was ever relegated to being human. It's actually interesting because I was kind of spitballing about this with regards to all the connections I could make, and I realised that they've done a very similar thing to Medusa as well. So that's something I also felt like should be kept in mind, this idea of a kind of quote-unquote mortal woman being villainised upon the basis of either defending themselves from the actions of men or taking the fall for a man's mistake. And it's an important scenario, I think, to keep in mind, especially for now as well. So I was basically looking at this, and like my first question was like, did Rickmansworth kick her out? Did the fake god kick her out? Did fake hair god hurt her? What happened here? Like, how did she become this mortal instead of being the goddess that she actually was in the first place? And I knew immediately that something about this just felt completely wrong. And part of me was actually looking between Pandora and Persephone and the ideas surrounding them and what they are like as goddesses, specifically because it's said that some of the earlier epithets that could be attributed to the goddess Gaia and the goddess Demeter were also Pandora's name. That name was also an epithet given to those two goddesses as well, making her a goddess of earth beside them, probably a goddess of fertility too. And as Persephone is Demeter's daughter and the goddess of spring, it felt like it made sense to kind of look at this now. Like, it's Ostara, and it feels like it's about time in some ways that Pandora was vindicated. And as I heard from her, she did not open the jar. Epithemios, her husband, did. And as we know, his name means afterthought. It's quite interesting though, because she told me, from what I understand of it, that she took the fall for his mistake because it was her house. So she had been given the jar by Zeus to take care of, and she'd been told not to open it. But Epithemios opened it anyway because he was curious and he hadn't thought about what would happen if he did. Whereas Pandora was never really given any choice in this, but because she was the host to him, in a sense, because it was gift specifically given to her, she had to take responsibility. It's unfair. It really is. And I kind of realised quietly in all of this that she had kind of been given responsibility over that jar and the jar that is full of what we would probably consider more virtuous spirits, more virtuous demons. She'd been given charge of both of those because she's kind of a conduit between humans and gods herself. At least from what I understood of what she told me. This is what she was saying. And so I asked, in that sense, like, well, how do we show you respect then? Like, should this be reimagined in a similar way to how I reimagined Hera? Because Hera's not a nasty goddess herself either. I think a lot of Greek myths come from a much later period within ancient Greek history, and a lot of the female goddesses who would have been venerated otherwise have been massively misinterpreted by people. And even gods to an extent have. I won't go into that now, but I feel like this especially applies to Pandora's story and the way in which both ancient Greek culture and modern culture have interpreted her. I literally put, how much misogyny does there have to be before we can breathe? And it felt like something that she wanted to say as well. So from here, I will start the reading. Nearly 12 minutes already, wow. Okay. Okay, which one? Let's do this from my left. Okay. So what does Pandora want to tell us today? What does Pandora want us to know? Oh, blimey. Okay. What does Pandora wish for the collective to know today? What does Pandora want us to know? Can we get one card, please? One card at a time, please. Goddess Pandora, what would you like us to know today? What would you like us to know about you? What would you like us to know about you and your purpose here? This one? Okay. This one? This one? Alright. So, these are the 3 cards that have come up thus far. Don't know if you can see them. I'm having to. Okay. Now it's interesting because, especially for me, 23 is, from what I understand, the node that I was incarnated on. Incarnated, that was pronounced weird. But it's interesting that this specific card has come up as well, because Pandora's name literally means all giving. So her entire purpose, from what was understood of her name, would be generosity. It's interesting she's kind of like become this person who is given all bad to people without kind of acknowledging the good that she has given people as well. Like, she's a gift giver. She gives good and bad depending upon what people need. And I think that's an important distinction to make. Like, every gift she gives for a reason. It is interesting as well, if we keep in mind the epithet that she has, that she shares with Gaia and Demeter as well. It's this sense of the she gives from the earth, and they give from the earth too. It's strange that, like, all of a sudden, like, somebody who was giving good or bad would all of a sudden kind of become a villain, when you have somebody like Demeter, for example, and even Gaia at times, known for their Erinys forms, known for their furious forms, if you like, known for their anger as much as they are known for the plentiful bounty that they give. And yet Pandora is kind of a scorned woman in this regard, instead of being treated as the goddess she actually is. But I feel like she wants to give to us. That's the sense I'm getting. Is that especially now that it's spring. Like, now that it's spring, I think, especially with the 36, with the 9 that's coming up, she wants to give. She wants the time in which she has been treated as the person who got too curious and allowed things to be released to humanity upon her watch that shouldn't have come out, or that she was made based upon Zeus's spite towards humans being able to use fire. This idea of her being made to be a villainess almost. I think she wants to dispute and to reclaim who she truly is as a person, who she is as a god. And it feels important to do that. It feels important for her to have that chance to be able to say, hey, actually, this is what I'm like. Like, this has been interpreted wrong, and I need people to see this and understand. Like, much in the same way that people need justice in that regard when they've, say, been accused of something they haven't done. Some people even, like, go to prison as a result of that, things like that. It's not an easy topic. It's not an easy thing to go through. But she wants to be able to have a second chance. And I personally think that that should be given to her, based upon what I understand of what she has told me. She deserves to be treated as the spring earth goddess that she once was before. She wants to come back. This is like, I've been feeling this for a while, that a lot of the old gods, the real gods, want to come back. A lot of them want to come back. It's not necessarily like they left per se, but it's like, let's just say everybody wants to be in their positions again, in their rightful positions, and they haven't been in a long time. And I feel it's important to keep that in mind as well. That a lot of things have been overtaken by religions that I don't want to say necessarily that they don't belong there. But they may not necessarily connect to people ancestrally or spiritually in the same way that they ought to. And this can harm people spiritually. It can, unfortunately. It can end up being a vector for spiritual disease, or a reason for spiritual disease. And it can affect people's bloodlines. And I don't mean to say this to scare anybody, and if anybody is afraid, like, either this isn't for you, or there may be something with regards to that you may need to address. If it makes you feel negative in some ways, there are one of two options. It's either it's not for you, or there may be something that you have yet to address, that you need to address with regards to why you're feeling that way. And maybe even I do, with regards to what I'm seeing. But I have reflected upon this for a long time. And from what I have been seeing, from what I have been understanding, I am, at least to some extent, correct. Based upon my own experiences, though. I can't speak for anybody else. I can only speak for myself. And this comes to the idea of freedom in and of itself. I suppose freedom of spirituality, freedom of religion, freedom in general to do things, to make choices. And it feels as though Pandora not only wants to be free of the villainous archetype she's been given, but she also wants other people to free themselves too. She wants people to feel free to be who they are as people. She wants you to be free to make the mistakes that you need to make. She wants you to be free to take of the gifts that she wants to give you. I think there is this idea, especially in current society, at least Western society where I'm living right now, this idea of self-care almost being greedy. Like, people will talk about things like self-care and whatnot, and a lot of what they kind of show to be quote-unquote self-care is a lot more to do with more what people would consider more indulgent kinds of actions. And I will not deny that there is this idea of like treating yourself and making sure that you allow yourself goodness in things, like allowing yourself to enjoy things. Like, that is important. That is very important in and of itself. Like, I would dare say that even like life in and of itself is to be enjoyed. But the fact that self-care in and of itself is like, there's this aesthetic, it's almost like there's aesthetic for it. And it doesn't often look more at the nitty-gritty parts where you go through all of the horrible things that you need to go through in order to heal, or in doing more of the simple things that help those of us who need to survive. Especially as a system, we often experience more of the less positive aspects of this self-care, or at least less, shall we say, less pleasurable, because we have to. And I do not feel like it's talked about enough. I don't feel like the importance of it is talked about enough in our society. And a lot of the times, these things that we do, these very simple things that we end up needing to do, often get called laziness. They get called sloth. And it doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't sit right with me. And I don't think it sits right with Pandora either. This one, okay. Ooh, we're getting to half an hour. But it felt important to mention this, because obviously I believe there is a new awakening coming around where the old gods are returning. I've got, if any of you know Blue Oyster Cult, I've got the old gods return in my head at the moment. I've been feeling this for a while, but I've not really said much about it, partially because of my own identity. But there is a level of, there is definitely a level of people who are, let's just say people who are incarnated into what we would consider mortal life, if you will, like life, whether that's on Earth or elsewhere, who are realising that they are gods incarnated. And there is a lot of this going on, there is a lot of this happening, and not a lot of us know. Many other people who come from godly lineages and things like that. So, Pandora, why? Why is all of this, why are you mentioning all of this now? Why am I being called to mention this now? Oh, that fell on the floor. Under the desk as well. Okay. How interesting. And what comes up is the wisdom card. Now, I think it's the Echoes of Gaia tarot, but if I'm wrong, I will probably put the links to all of my all of the cards and all of the sorts of divination I'll be using in this video in the description box below, but the Gaia Tarot, it's by Ravynne Phelan, and the cards, especially the major arcana, are completely different. So this would usually be 10. Like 10 would usually be the Wheel of Fortune, but because of the way in which it works, this looks a lot more like the Hermit. And it's interesting that this specific one comes up as to me asking why. And I think it's because I don't think, from what I've understood, that a lot of people have heard Pandora's voice for a very long time. It has been a long time coming since she's actually been like, hey, I have something to say. Like, this wasn't me, I didn't do it. Or, like, even, like, with the gift-giving idea of giving good and bad gifts in order to make sure that a person's soul progression goes on, so that their soul thread is weaved in the right place, so that they're on the right part, the loom of the universal tapestry that everyone is woven into, right? And I think for her it's important that those who feel called to follow her actually do. Those who feel it's right. Those who feel a deep connection to her, like at least seek her out so that she can impart her wisdom, so that they can give gifts just as she does in order to help those who need to ascend, those who need to heal, because this is a simulation, and we as beings, whether we're human or not, like whether we're human or not within our stations off sim, or even, well, I suppose on sim. I'm trying to think of how to explain this best, but where our bodies are stored, if you like not all of us, like whether or not we're human or not, we were not supposed to be here for this long. Like, there was supposed to be a trial run and things went wrong. And up until about maybe like last year or the year before, we were not being ruled by the right head god. Let's just put it that way. And as a result, a lot of people are still dealing with the backlash from back then and all of the horror that we as a society, as a result, have had to deal with. There is a lot more to it, and I'll probably explain it more in another video, but like, in and of itself, Pandora herself as well has been affected by this. I don't know all of her I don't know of all of her involvement in what happened, especially within the Real Godly Rebellion that happened just before Rickmansworth took power. But what I do know is that she was cast down before me, and I have no doubt that there was some foul work at play, and that it's about time that she was given her due diligence, both as a goddess and as a person. What role did you have, Pandora? Like, what departments were you in? It's just as I've been researching. Do you see that? There's abundance. Abundance and mediation. Now, usually this in tarot would be of the minor arcana, this would be the Six of Swords. But because of what it is, it comes across a lot more as like a fair Five of Wands. But it's interesting. There's like a level of like repute here. That she like mediates but also gives repute to, like, there's almost like a level, it almost feels like there's like fairness. I'm seeing like a pair of golden scales in my mind. It's about more than just plenty. It's about giving people what they need and about giving people what they deserve, specifically what they deserve. And it's quite interesting that she's come up as being like both of these kinds of archetypes. And I don't wonder if the reason why she got deposed was because she was being fair. Which one? Which one, Pandora? This one? Okay. I felt like looking at the abundance one again. It's because it's so colourful. Why do I get the sense that her and Iris were friends? Like her, Iris, and Arke at some point were good friends, I feel. I know she worked with Gaia as well. And if we're talking about justice, she probably worked with Themis and DK and Nemesis as well. All lovely women, all lovely women. But why were you kicked out then? I have a feeling, but why were you kicked out? Because she was a real god and they did not like it. They did not like it. Okay, clarification on this higher power, please. They were never gonna change. They were never gonna change. And again, like the fake god stuff, like, I do not say this to scare anybody, but this is what I understand to be the truth. It's hard when people kind of misconstrue what you say with regards to these things. But from what I understand of both of these is that she could see what was happening and she called him out. She called Rickmansworth out and she called the rest of his goons out, and they threw a hissy fit. And a similar thing happened to me when my last straw came around with regards to all of this, and I got kicked out as well. Like, I am not even, like, I'm not even supposed to be here. Like, a lot of us aren't supposed to be here. But unfortunately, we're incarnated until we figure out how. Until we figure out how to get out. And it's just like I was not supposed to be incarnated even now. Like, I was supposed to be incarnated way later, after like the first batch of everybody like got off. But I was punted early, if you like. And as a result, I've not been able to properly heal a lot of my trauma, and I have a lot more of it as a result. And I would think that a lot of other gods and spirits probably have a similar experience. This one? This one? Okay. So what exactly happened to you afterwards? Like, this is the part where it gets interesting. Is like, what happened to us gods, right? What happened to you, Pandora? What happened after? And it's on the floor again. Eight of Spring. Spring, Eight of Spring, Eight of Spring. How interesting. Like, it was just a sudden descent into life, which is very similar to what happened to me as well. Is there anything specific that happened that you feel would be important to mention to the collective, or would be important for those who you wish to follow you, for them to know? Is there anything important you wish for my audience to know with regards to what happened? And it's on the floor again. Okay. Must be important. Of course the life experience card comes up. Okay, now that's interesting. We have 2 8s here. 8 plus 8 is 16. Goodbye. Goodbye. Okay. That's so interesting, isn't it? It is. It is. From what I understand of this, such like it uprooted her whole existence. And that kind of thing, like, especially as somebody who's supposed to be a god, because as gods, we're not... What's the word? Like, we're not all high and mighty per se. Like, we're managers, right? Like, our jobs, like, we fill in specifically for different departments. That's why I was mentioning departments before with the Gaia cards, was that the way in which being a god works is that you work in specific departments and you work to help people heal. Like, that's the entire point of what the sim was supposed to be. It's a healing sim. And you help people according to where their wounds are and what they need help with. What they need help with healing. And once they're done, then they go. And that was what's supposed to happen. But stuff got shut off and people got illegally transported here and things like that, even when they shouldn't have been here. And I think that's important to keep in mind. With regards to the way in which older gods function, it's because we were living in a different time. Like a time in which people were kind of free to live and grow. Like this freedom that we had before. I think it's something that Pandora wants to get back for all of us. This idea that, from what I'm seeing of what she's saying, is that she needed to move on. She needed to move on from things. Like, she needed to get on with things, to get on with lives. Just as I did, just as other people in my godly family had to, just as other people in other departments, even in my department, have had to. And leaving everything behind when it's been wrongfully taken from you, especially when you know that it's not for the highest good of those you're taking care of, it can be scary and it can be painful. And I have no doubt that Pandora feels this as well. I'm feeling it. This one. So then, Pandora, what do you want people to see? Like, who do you want people to see you as right now? To those who are watching now, and to those who may potentially become acolytes of yours, what do you want them to see you as, that they may not necessarily understand completely? What do you want them to see you as? No, that's interesting that comes up. Because she does have relationships with the Hode. That's something I do know. And if you don't know who the Hode are, they are the goddesses / nymphs of the seasons. I don't wonder if Pandora may have either been a leader of them or worked with them, or even is potentially their mother or godmother. I wouldn't be surprised. It's interesting. Okay, so 23 has come up again. And for those of you who don't know, 23, as well as being the node that I live on, also belongs to my godly father, and is known to be like specifically like the node of time, if you get what I'm saying. It is known to be particularly for those who are affiliated with time gods, or for whom time is important. And this is an important thing to keep in mind when I'm talking about this, but I think there is a level here of like, this talks about conscious choice, but it also talks about, I guess to an extent, a level of cause and effect, whereby like your actions properly determine your consequences. And a lot of the ways in which karma has worked up until this point, from when Rickmansworth first came to power, even to now, it's important to keep in mind that this was not like the way in which karma works. It's not meant to be this slow, it's not meant to be this sluggish, it's not meant to be the way it is right now. And as it's been said, Pandora gives gifts to as and whom deserve them. And there is this level here, I think, because this card specifically kept coming up, which is quite interesting. The prison wave kept coming up, and I was kind of like, well, why is this coming up? Because why is it this specific archetype that you're talking about? And I'm thinking that what she is saying is that she is, like, I kept being drawn to one of the other cards in the deck as I was shuffling, which is the Keeper of the Scales, which is equality and fairness and balance. And I think for her, the balancing is the entire point. Just as there are like two dragons, she has two main archetypes, I guess, as to who she is as a person. Like, keep in mind, her name is All Giving, and that means she gives all, not just positive things, negative things as well, dependent upon what people need and deserve. And I think this is why the prison wave has come up, is this idea that she will take from those who do not deserve what they have, in both a good and bad way, and give to those who do. There's this idea of like not getting too far into the poverty consciousness. And I'm thinking, because obviously also like the abundance card is there as well from the Gaia Tarot that I'm using. Like, it landed right on top of it, like one after the other. And my thought here is that she can grant either, and that it's important that you keep, or at least try to keep, a positive mindset. Feel your feelings, like, no doubt, because that energy needs to go somewhere, that energy needs to move somewhere. But don't be those feelings. Embody the things that you want to be. Embody a rich mindset, right? Like, embody it in and of yourself. Let the feelings go that don't serve you anymore. My thought is that she wants to be able to help with self-sabotage and poverty consciousness as it reads on the cards. And I think she's tuned into a lot of people who have been made to be poor or to live in poverty, and she sees you don't deserve it, right? She sees that and she understands it. What she wants to say is that she can help you get out of that. Like, if that is what you want, if that is what you need, she will help you if you contact her. I'm gonna draw some tea leaves now. And I'm gonna ask, how best would it be, Pandora, for anybody watching now to contact you, to offer to you in order to help you, or to, like, in order to help themselves and help you with regards to being a god, and with regards to helping, whether that's with poverty consciousness or otherwise, to help with abundance? How best would it be to contact you? How would you like to be contacted by anybody who might choose to be a follower? Yeah, I don't think that works. Okay. How would you like best to be contacted? Okay, can you clarify this, fair woman, please? January. Interesting. How would you like to be contacted? Is it that you would like specifically maybe yellow offerings? Because that's the sense I'm getting, is like this idea of like gold. This idea of like gold and green and spring and things being lush. Or like the smell of freshly cut grass. It may do to write some poetry. I think this all comes down to like this idea of being true to yourself. Like January is usually cold, but it feels like, what I feel like she's asking is for you guys to pause. That's what it feels like, to pause, to go inwards, to be introspective. Yeah. And maybe with regards to all of these people coming up, because there's a fair woman and a dark man, so like dealings or a relationship with a woman with blonde, grey or white hair, and the dark man being dealings or relationships with a man with dark complexion or hair, right? Maybe it would be worth, maybe there's this idea I'm starting to feel of pausing and discussing her in and of herself with other people. Yeah. There's this idea of like getting together around like I'm feeling a fire, but like getting together around a fire, but it may not necessarily need to be that. It may just be that I feel like she wants this to be cozy and for this to like be a discussion. Yeah. She wants people to get some friends, like go somewhere, like I'm getting the sense of like, you know, like real, like, okay, so I live in the UK, right? And we have pubs everywhere, right? And like there are some pubs that are like, or like even tea rooms and whatnot, that are extremely cozy. And whilst this might not necessarily solve the problem immediately, it can. And like, I think there is an understanding here that with regards to perception around Pandora herself, it's going to take time. It's going to take time for people to fully understand. But she wants there to be talking going on. She wants people to hear from her. She wants people to speak of the mythos that surrounds her and the etymology of her name and who she is as a person. Aside from solely her myth, I think she wants people to see her more positive qualities and understand, yeah. And this can give those in her retinue and those who choose to follow her, even those who speak of her in a positive light, good luck. You know? Is there anything else you want the collective to know before we go? Is there anything else you want the collective to know before we go, Pandora? Is there anything the collective needs to know? There will be some news soon. I think. With regards to this, there will be some like she will come to you. Like, if this video is for you, she will come and have a conversation with you. Or like you may find her in human form, she might come in godly form. But either way, like, she's waiting for you, you're waiting for her. Like, whichever way this goes, she's more than happy to have a conversation, more than happy to connect with people. And honestly, I feel like it's about time she did as well. Is that it? Yeah? Okay. Thank you all so much for watching. I wish you a very happy Ostara. My private readings are on my Etsy shop. If you wish to have a more in-depth reading, I only take orders through Etsy. I don't have anywhere else yet where I do business, but I am more than happy to read for those who do decide to come to my Etsy shop. I do still do subliminals, but I'm only going to be doing them on this channel. I will not be doing them through the Etsy shop because it ended up becoming too much for us as a system to do. So if you do have any subliminal requests, then please feel free to put them in the comments of any posts that I might make. Whether or not I do get round to doing them is another thing. I will do those per my discretion and what I feel is right to do when. So please don't try and pressure me to do anything, because most likely with my pathological demand avoidance, I will not do it. So like this, I'm pulling the mental health card here. As I always like to say, blessed be. And I wish you all a wonderful day, afternoon, evening, night, etc. And may Lita Vis's blessings be with you.